September 6th. And finally, we have some progress with the US elections. Now, I'm just going to share the live stream out on my Twitter account. If you guys are new to following me, I am Jane Galena, also known as Airplane Jane. And every day, roughly 12:15, I do my live stream on YouTube talking about the volatile stocks for today, as well as what's really moving and what we might have some insight on based on some dark pool activity from the really big hedge fund guys where they hide their trades. So let me just post up on Twitter the link for today. And I also wanted to announce that I was able to get in to find out the contest winner for the day trading quick start guide, and it is Asif. So Asif, congratulations. You are here. It was totally awesome to see the random selection come up and it was your name. So I am very excited for you. I will be giving away another copy. So I will post that in the comment section below about where you can sign up to win the next free copy. All right, guys. So we have hi, Joe. Hi, Asif. Right, I just got the chat up. You guys do see I have the White House up in the background, right? Well, that is the big question. Who is going to be living in the White House come end of January next year? Well, it looks like the counts are leaning towards Biden, and it seems as if the market might be reacting as well. We had the announcement that he was pretty much leading, and the market seems to be liking that at the moment. We have rebounded up. That came out roughly 11 o'clock. And looking at the S&P SPY ETF, we can see these green lines I have on my chart are actually Brian Shannon's anchored VWAP, and I have them from the 4th and yesterday as well. So you can see that upper bound pretty much was that volume weighted average price from yesterday's open, and the lower bound coincidentally was the volume weighted average price from Wednesday. So will we breach this to the downside? We also have a bit of a wedge that was set up from the high in September and the subsequent high we had mid-October. We are above that trend line for now. Will we hold above it? We are seeing some other indications that we might have a big move in the market. Will that move happen today? Potentially. Might have a drawdown into the close today. And so this might be the peak at which you could get in for that lower risk. Hey, Daya. Hey, Kyle. Yeah, we'll definitely chart out Sony and Microsoft, and we'll also look at AMD today as well. I know you have a position on AMD that you've asked me about, so we will definitely check that out. Let's look at, oh my goodness, I totally deleted the cues. You know what, Mark? I do agree with you that the election seems to be going to drift and drift. The math statistics don't tie up with the numbers yet. For sure. Now, what's really interesting to me is it seems like just looking at the charts, forget the politics, right? You know, the news and the politics, they're going to do their own thing. The really big thing is what are the charts telling us from here? And looking, we are setting lower highs, right? We had 303 on the Qs, then we had 297, and then we had 294.40, 294.50 roughly. So those are the peaks that we have to contend with on the way up. Right now, we had a big, massive rally from the election. Seasonality shows that this happens time and time again, and then we have a pullback. We did almost fill the close down on the gap up from Wednesday to Thursday. And yeah, Mark, I see your question about what happens with the uncertainty in the markets. Well, here's the thing. When we look at the VXX, remember the VXX is going to be our fear indicator based on the S&P 500 as to what people believe are going to happen. We had a big indication that we were going to have a pullback before the market, before the elections. Right before it, we saw big dark pool activity. We went above it, which would mean that they were anticipating for the market to drop. We're starting to see big dark pool prints on other major stocks, and that could definitely lead to a bigger move. So that's going to happen potentially today, potentially in the future. But the bigger issue at hand than just the election is also going to be the debt bubble. What is happening with the economy? Right now, yes, there seems to be a determination of who the potential winner will be based on the votes. I try to keep politics out of it. However, the market seems to like that certainty at the moment. We will see. We just filled the gap and we rejected it. This is midday on Friday, again at 12:15, so anything is possible from here, right? When we look at the SPY, they filled the gap and they pulled it right back down. We're rejecting that volume from yesterday. On the Qs, same scenario. Whoops, added an extra Q there. We came up and, I didn't do that. Let me add the volume weighted average price here. Right over here. So we're just above it on the Qs. Now let's also look at Apple, because Apple is really interesting as such a major holding in the Qs and the S&P 500. For now, we are also above the volume weighted average price there. However, it almost looks like a head and shoulders. I was doing more research for my CMT training, and we've got a shoulder here, another shoulder, a head right here, up to roughly 1927, and now we're coming back to the shoulder level of 1880. Now, if we break down below this neckline, over here, below 1750 again, there might be more heavy selling coming into the picture, bringing us back down. We did bounce off of the 20 simple moving average today, and we have this downward trend again. We are setting lower highs. We have a lower high here for the moment. Yesterday's close of 119.03. We came up there, bounced above it 119.19 today, and now we are rejecting it again. Let's look at this on a little bit smaller time frame to see where the volume has really come in. So looking at our volume at the bottom, we had volume that came in roughly 10:55 right in the middle of the day, and then we have big volume right at 12 o'clock up at the high, roughly 119. Now let me go over here and see if I can see any good volume levels that maybe we should watch on Apple. I know we had a bigger print that came in later this morning. That was this, 1903, that we saw, hey, they actually printed something later into the day. And then we dropped down. So maybe that was an indication of bigger things to come. I'm going to see time-wise if we have anything right at 12 o'clock. Right at 11:41, there was a 650,000 share print that was at 118.26. So let's put that up here. Let's go to the chart at 11:45, right here. So 118.46, we had that 650,000 share print. Now, if we drop below that, that might be an indication. That was just above my level 4 potential breakout for today as well. So seeing that, there might be a further move to the downside if we break below this. And then again, if we go below 1660 to the downside, which is also coincidentally that 425 EMA on my 5-minute chart. Let's look at the other stocks I had on my list today. So every day I do create my watch list live. I do broadcast that on Ticker Talker on my channel there, and it's available on Ticker Talker as well as on my website at cjntrade.com. And actually there's a promo code on my website right now through November if you all are interested to save 35% off a month, 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months with Vote 2020. So we have XPEV had an extreme upward motion right here on our daily chart. Very, very steep. Nice ASIF, nice 15% from ACB. Yeah, that was a nice one. And now this has not been able to break out higher today. So I said on my list, hey, if this goes below over here, 33.50, watch out. There's a potential short trade there. We had a small one, 32 cents. That, you know, I'm looking for something bigger with such big volatile moves here. They do have earnings coming up on November 12th. So that is something to consider in holding these. Also, if you have not seen the China Hustle on Netflix, please check that out. I was in some XPEV. I did take profits up here yesterday, roughly at 36, but I'm happy to be out knowing that earnings are coming up and it's starting to pull back today. This was almost that blow off exhaustion potentially. This might be that downward motion for potential short to come back down, even maybe down to 27 there. Fitch, FTCH, Farfetch, had a big move today and a slight run up above that buy level of $43. If it breaks above, that's the potential trade once we get above these resistance levels. If you all have not read Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, definitely check that out. You'll see why it's better to wait for those higher probability trades. We had T-Mobile today. Well, they had earnings, and it looks like it's more that gap and drop scenario today. Brought it all the way up to 127 at open and just pulled back down from there. We're in a bit of a consolidation area. You can see it on the chart, 125 for that upper resistance and lower level of 123.40. If we can get out of this rectangular box zone, we might see further move to the upside, break above 126 or break down further below 122.40. Also, Roku today, amazing move, amazing. Up $27 with earnings as well. You can see on the daily chart that we did break a trend line today as well. So this was the perfect trade almost. We had earnings, it gapped up, and it opened right on the trend line. So a nice move to the upside here. Seems as if it stalled out a little bit up at 253.80. Looks as if we would need to have more volume buying in. And we had some volume that came in. Let's check it out over here and see if I have any larger block trades that I can see that happened. Nothing too large, nothing larger than 25,000 shares. So this is in a bit of an upward trend right now, right here. So as long as it could hold this trend line to the upside on the shorter term, there's actually a little bit of a channel there. Let's draw this. Right there, and let's bring it down right here. We've actually broken out just above that channel a little bit, so I'd like to see that hold. Could be for further breakout here. 254 confirmation to the upside. ACB, amazing. Look at how these moving averages, people say, Jane, you have so many moving averages on your chart. It's hard to read everything, but look at why I have it, right? It came up here, 1217 was that exponential moving average. And where did we stop for the high of the day? 1218. There's reasons why these are on the chart. They work, right? NEO as well, breaking out above 40 today, was not able to continue this crazy steep incline that we have on the daily. Right now, we're just below the trend line. Potential short here. Again, Lee and NEO both have earnings coming up next week. NEO had big news about the new battery coming out, their giga battery like Tesla. However, Tesla's, in my opinion, really the big winner for the electronic car market, as it is not just an electronic car, it's also a battery and utility and green utility company. So we have Apple. I did mention this. I had this on watch for potential short today. We did have a nice little short when we broke down below 1660, came down to 116.13. And now we see that it's topped off. We filled the gap back on the close up to 119.03, and now we're pulling back. Remember, there's that level that I mentioned to watch, the 650,000 share print just above us right now. So will this be a downward turn in the market? Sometimes we see that Fridays and Mondays tend to be a positioning day in the market. And I like to really see the big movement that happens Tuesday through Thursday. That seems like it's the easiest to trade. Monday and Fridays tend to be a little bit of chop fest. We also have CCL, Carnival Cruise Lines. Really didn't have much of a trade today. It just was gapping around and did not break one way or the other. That's okay. There were other opportunities. AMD as well. This one's for Kyle. Had my level of 83.20. If we go above this, there's a nice potential move to the upside. You can also see that we are breaking out on that trend line today. Breaking a descending downward trend with some volume is great. So if you missed it in the beginning, you missed this initial crazy 15-minute spike up, that's okay. It gave you another opportunity, roughly 10 o'clock to get in and trade it from 83 up to 85. Plug as well, had Plug on my potential short list, and instead it's moving to the upside. We did have a drawdown into the open, pulled back, however, never broke below my 1750 level for potential short trade to fill the gap to the downside into Wednesday's price action down to 1650. So instead, it broke out and it seems to be setting up with a bit of a double top up here. If we could break down through 1850, then we'll have a nice M formation and a potential pullback down to the 200 simple moving average, 1840, maybe all the way down to my nice 425 down here, which happens to also be the low of the day. I don't know, I've got this feeling like the market could very well be setting up for that Biden win. Also was watching Drip today with oil pulling back. Remember, one of the big topics for Biden was all about fracking and oil and how he wants to move away from fossil fuels. So we see that the electronic sector is really doing well. Electronic cars, electronic utilities, and as a result, oil is dropping. So we have the oil futures. Oops, I don't mean to look at the indicators there. So when we look at the oil futures, they are pulling back today. And when we look at our daily chart, it's the chart over here on the left. So looks like they readjusted it. This was when they had that oil futures that just pulled back and they readjusted the futures there. So we are just about to break below the 200 simple moving average on the daily. 3671 is that 200 simple moving average. If we break below there, we could see this end up with a bigger downturn, potentially down to 3180. So a nice $5 move to the downside. So I would not recommend trading a leveraged ETF longer term. However, you could look at it for day trades to capture that day trade movement. We see that this came up to the moving averages and now it's a very bearish. We had a reversal off of the 20 SMA, broke down below the 21 EMA, and now we're moving down further. Let's look at it on the 45-minute chart as well. We hit that 425 today and we broke down. That is my big indicator. Hey, if we are going to put on our bear hat, we need to be crossing below that 425 EMA. Let's check and see where that is on Apple as well. So for Apple on that 425, it's down at 114.90. So I'm just going to set a little alert there, 114.80. I'll put it to 114.90 and crossing down. That is my, hey, let's put on the bear hat, full confirmation. It's okay. Maybe we miss a little bit right off of the top, but it's better for that confirmed move to the downside. All right, let's look at SNE for Kyle today. If you guys have any stocks that you would like me to look at and give you my opinion on, I'd be happy to do that. So let's look at SNE today. We see that this is a harder one to trade, as I mentioned before, because this does gap. It's traded on another exchange, so it's very gappy. That it trades overnight on another exchange and then it gets reevaluated in the morning. We do have a bit of an ascending triangle here. If we're able to break above 90.50, this could have a further breakout. We see 90.88 was the 52-week high, and that happened yesterday. We had higher than normal volume, and today is an inside candle day. It has not taken it out either direction. So there's a little bit of indecision with that inside candle. However, it's still in that upward trend mode. We had earnings, it surged higher after earnings, and it's holding that trend. Getting into this potentially longer term, I would look and say, hey, if we can hold that 88.50, I like it to the upside. Something to remember that this angle right here is fairly steep. Right? If we look at a 45-degree angle, that is going to be average, right? That's 45 degrees. Something that's more shallow will tend to hold that support more easily going up. Something that is steeper between 45 and 90 degrees will tend to fail more quickly. So as long as it's holding this upward trend line, that's at roughly 63 degrees, hey, I like it to the long side. If it starts to break down, I would take my profits and move forward. All right, let's look at Microsoft as well. Now, Microsoft, we did have some dark pool activity yesterday. And yesterday, you can see we're pretty much below yesterday's candle. So you might imagine that maybe that was selling volume yesterday. But if we take this candle out, then, we're likely to go and see new highs. We had a doji day back on middle of October 13th, with a high of 225.21. Again, I am suspect of the market right now because seasonality shows that we do tend to have a downward turn into the middle of November. Let's pull that up and I will go over it with you guys. So I do go to equityclock.com and look at the seasonality right there, which is a nice way to look and see what's potentially going to happen. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There's no guarantee, but for the election year, for the past 59 trading years, we see that on average, we tend to pull back into the middle of the month. This is somewhat setting up. We had the high, now we will potentially pull back. The average year, we still have a little pullback, goes sideways for maybe a week, and then potentially move up. Election year tends to be a bit more dramatic, with that third week of November being the low at which to buy. We already had the low that was back in the third week of October, in fact, October 30th. Maybe that's the low to watch out for. Looking at Microsoft, it seems as if we've had that. Maybe we're going to come back down to that 20 simple moving average, roughly 214, or down to this more shallow trend line over here at 215.60. Right now, we've got on the weekly chart a fairly bullish engulfing candlestick to watch, but we're still setting lower highs. And it almost looks like a new double top right here that's set up from the middle of October. If we break down from here, we did close the gap down to 218.03 and surged higher. We're still riding that weekly trend line to the upside. So we're still long on Microsoft and the market overall until we get bigger indications that we're going to pull back. If we start to go below yesterday's candlestick, we might see that trend changes for the next 2 weeks and we pull back down to roughly 206 as well. That's also another option, but I don't think that it would be potentially that extreme, more roughly that 214 area. Let's look at Nvidia as well. All right, so Nvidia, I see a nice W over here. Nice one, Jacob. All right, so you guys see it? You see the W on the daily chart right here, and I'll bring this one over to 45 minutes. So if we could break above 580, this might be reaching new highs. We have that resistance line roughly, actually 575. So we tested that today However, it looks like the volume came into it and is selling it off from there. Went all the way up to 5.76, roughly 2 cents shy. And we might see a further drawdown. It's riding this 50 simple moving average on the 45-minute fairly well. So I would use that as a potential target if I were to go short. However, remember that trade that goes against the trend tends to be more difficult. So wait for the easier trades, right? Let's check and see again what Apple doing in relation to that price that we were looking at. It's just above it now. All right, and Zoom. So Zoom almost looks like a head and shoulders on the daily over here. You see that? Where we have a shoulder level roughly right up here, 502.50. We rejected that price level today. Then we have the high, we'll say 575. It had a spike up, but it could not hold there. So 575 for the high potentially. And again, we rejected that 502.50. If we break below down here, 465, watch out, we might have a bigger move to the downside for Zoom. Yes, everybody's using Zoom now for a lot of meetings, a lot of education. However, is their growth going to stall? They've had explosive move. I mean, look, they went from 230 to 588. Will that growth continue, or is it going to stall around here? Hey, yes, we had amazing growth thanks to the coronavirus. However, is this going to continue? And are they going to be able to sustain this? On the weekly chart, it's quite dramatic, that upward trend. And when we look at those dramatic upward trends, we've actually broken it, right? We broke that back on, let's pull it back to our daily over here. We broke that weekly upward trend right here on October 21st. Yeah, Asaph, you know, it's just that I think a lot of people were there. They also have Google Meets and Google Chat and Google Classroom. So Google already has a competition for it. It's how easily accessible and easy to use for people nowadays. Also on the daily, we also have our 20 simple moving average right there at 508. Mark, you're saying Zoom's value is 90 times earnings. That will, I don't know what the other word after will be because you've got an either. That will erupt. Yeah, we will see. I mean, looking at it, it's looking as if it's weakening to me, right? We had volume spiking up here, then it's dropping. Maybe an indication that there's less buyers buying into it. They're saying, hey, we've capitalized on these amazing gains, and now we're going to let it settle back. I mean, look at the 50 simple moving average on the weekly. That's all the way down to 220. That's 280 points away from where we are. That's quite extreme. That's quite a dramatic move. You know, I could see even 278 coming down to 278 on the weekly chart, or even over here 295 for the daily chart. Looks like that those are areas where we might see it pull back. So keep it on watch. If we break below this 343, we've got that gap fill down to 325. It is a great mover and has some great possibilities to it, but it looks like this 20 simple moving average is really acting as resistance to the upside. All right, let's check SE out for Kyle, and that's going to be the last one for today, as I will be on the Ticker Talker live stream at 1 o'clock. So let's pull this up here. SE is a technology stock as well. So you can see we've got a little bit of an island going on. So we have this with Microsoft. We have this with SE. We have it with Apple. We've got some island gaps that potentially those island gaps will be filled to the downside. The computers really like to fill gaps. And SE has 2 gaps. Also, Amazon had gaps. There are a lot that could potentially fill the gap to the downside. Looking at SE, if we close below the low of yesterday, 180.60, then this could potentially pull back. Yeah. You know what? Jeff Bezos keeps selling, and he definitely sells, and I believe he has pre-scheduled sales. that are set, hey, if it hits this price and it's the second time, sell. So when I see those sales, anybody can sell for any reason, right? Maybe he wants to start another business. It's when you really see people putting money into it that you want to pay attention to that, because think about it, why wouldn't you want to take some profit and potentially put it into something else, buy another house, start another business? I don't know if he has any kids, but maybe he has to put kids through college. There's so many reasons why people could take money out. It's really when they put money in that you would want to pay attention to it. And the Form 4s will really help with that. All right, guys, have an amazing weekend. I will see you live on Sunday at 1:30. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at cjanetrade.com. And Carpe Profit, seize those profits one trade at a time.